What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. It is your girl, Shelly Nicole, with the Remedy Podcast. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Hope everybody had a calm weekend. So much for all the rain that we were supposed to get that we never got, but that's great. Anyway, so today's episode, I have my parents here to talk about their 40 years. They'll be married 40 years, June 1st. Can't believe it. And they're going to talk about just marriage and relationships, how relationships are today, the issues that we're facing now when it comes to dating, what they can give their 40-year experience of marriage, and then just more information for everybody to, advice actually, for everyone to use. So sit back and take some notes. Maybe it can help you guys. Are y'all done? You did. You laughed.
That's right. You laughed.
You have to come closer. No, Ma, that's too close. That's too close. That's good. Hi, guys. How are you?
Good. We're fine.
Hi, Michelle.
Oh, God. This is going to be hilarious.
No, we're not going to laugh because then we won't get through the questions.
No, we are going to get through these questions. Okay, so I got about like 17 questions, but, I'm just going to...
15 off.
No, Dad. I'm just going to pick the ones that I really like. Nonetheless, first question. How did you guys meet? And what was your first impression of each other?
She just asked you like a laugh.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
I see you doing laughing.
Go closer. What do you mean?
All right. Well, we met in your grandmother's apartment.
What?
Is my recollection. My recollection is we met in my mother's apartment because my sister was dating a co-worker of Harvey's, and they came up to my mother's house because he had to pick up something or whatever, and Harvey was with him, and I met him that way. Oh, by the way, this is my co-worker Harvey, whatever. And I said, oh, hi, it's nice to meet you, whatever. But he hardly opened his mouth. He didn't say much of anything. And I just said, okay, whatever. And that was it.
So, Dad, you played it cool?
My version.
You played it cool?
I was downstairs when Sandra's boyfriend went upstairs to get you guys. I would stay downstairs watching my car and his car.
You were upstairs in grandma's
I
apartment.
never went upstairs.
You was. But anyway, go ahead. We're got a little bit of forgetfulness. So
because I know I did not go up.
You did go up.
You went up to grandma's house?
Of all people, Sandra.
You went up to grandma's house?
No, I did not. I stayed in the car because we had two cars. His car and my car.
What car did you have? The Thunderbird?
Thunderbird.
Big ass car.
Downstairs, and he went upstairs, and y'all came down. You and your sister got in his car, and I was taking him to see something else. And you guys were in his car. I remember that because you were looking out the back window.
That was after you were upstairs.
I was never upstairs.
You were upstairs.
I did not meet your parents like that. I did not meet your mother like that.
How did you meet my mother?
After a while, I met your mother.
Wait, so when was the time? When did you, how many dates did you meet grandma? Or did you just meet him after the first one?
I met your mother when we went our first date. That's when I finally went upstairs to your house. We went to the car show. That's the only time I met your mother.
So the first date was the car show?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that was nice. And
the car show.
Why are you laughing, Ma? You didn't have fun at the car show? It was at the Jacob Javits still?
Yes, it was.
Damn.
No, it was at Columbus Circle. At that time, it was the Columbus Circle was where the car shows was. It's not the Jacob Javits Center that you know right now. It was in Columbus Circle. That's where the car shows were. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So how was dating like back then? And how did you know you wanted to stop dating other people and just choose each other? Or did you not know? Maybe you didn't know. Maybe you just let it flow.
A little while before we settled in.
Oh, dating other people? Or just not seeing each other?
You did what? wasn't a straight. It wasn't a straight. How long was it? 6 years when we met each other. Like before we got married. I think it was like 6 years.
But like you didn't
We
date
weren't-
consistently
we weren't
for 6
dating
years?
For 6 years.
Well, I'm gonna tell you my memory is I know I was seeing someone else, and I remember talking about the conflict I had because Harvey was on the quiet side and a little reserved and stuff. I said, he's a nice guy, but he's a little quiet, very nice. But it was slow in the beginning. And I was dating somebody who was on the opposite end of the spectrum, a little fast. And so, I didn't have that happy medium. But I took a chance, and, the other guy who I was dating, that didn't work out. So that left me open to be, I guess, to look at our relationship in a different sense. Now, he's right in terms of the 6 years. In the 6 years, I think maybe we dated for 3 years because I was in college at the time studying nursing. I wasn't thinking of getting married. And so we were just, dating,
Just
having
played
a good
it cool.
time, just, just going out to clubs and doing different things. And I remember we had a breakup, and then we got back together in that 6 year period. But it was a 6 year period of dating before we eventually did get married.
Dad, did you date anybody else?
Early part, yes. Early part, yes. And then it was back and forth, and like she said, one time, and then after a while we started dating more so. I remember one time we went to Wichita Park, Flushing Meadows, and I lost my stereo. That was funny.
Yeah, man.
On a
I remember the first time he called me stupid.
What?
Dating.
Why did you
So
call
mad.
him? Why'd you call him
Something
stupid?
I did or
Let me tell
whatever. I don't know if it was like "Don't be so stupid" or "You are so stupid" or
No,
something.
I didn't say you are so stupid.
I'm the one that was the receiver, but I remember the word "stupid." So don't tell me
Of
how
course,
the
that's what you
context
remember,
worked.
stupid.
So I just was like, "Oh my God, stupid!" I mean, now today
You had
these
something to do
guys
with my
call. Well, you were pissed off about that.
See?
It was a
That's
question
why
that-
he
I think
called
it
you
took the-
stupid.
No, it was a different time when he said something
I don't
about me
remember
being
the time.
stupid.
I don't remember
But
the time.
anyway, it was. I took the radio out of the car. We had bags and blankets going on a picnic at Flushing Meadow Park, and I think that's what happened. We just took it out, and it was by the side of the car. When we came back, it was gone.
No,
So-
What happened?
Oh.
we were getting ready to leave to go back to the car. I was on a blanket. We packed up everything, took it off the blanket, packed up everything, and walked off. He's, where's the
Stereo?
yeah,
The speaker?
Radio,
the radio?
Oh, the radio?
Them big boom boxes.
boombox. Yeah, it was a
That one that they put on the shoulder?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Thing back then.
thing blue.
And we went.
No.
We went to look for it and gone.
So you didn't spend a lot of money on your dates, did you, Dad?
No.
The average amount back then. The average amount back then.
No, what's the average amount?
What was
No,
the average
we didn't.
amount?
No, we didn't because we went to clubs. Average
Club.
prices for clubs.
Club.
How much was the price for a
I
club?
don't remember how much. $20.
Nothing.
To get in?
$20.
If that, it was sometimes less than
Sometimes
that.
$10, $15.
Yeah, it wasn't that.
Free on Tuesdays for women.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Oh,
Free.
So
sort of like what it is
Those
now.
are different clubs.
Things weren't expensive like
And then buy drinks. You
Drinks
buy
were
some
$5.
drinks. I remember we
But you
went-
never went to like super expensive
Hell
restaurants.
no.
Oh.
We didn't do. I didn't do what. Oh, and the other thing I didn't do when we dated. I didn't do any of that cooking that these women be doing.
She
Cooking.
mentioned that. I don't cook.
No, I said you start. You end up the way you start out, and I know how to cook.
She's gotten better.
Listen, I know how to cook. I only made one bad roast, and that was a little tough that you can remember. But I mean, my food was edible, but I just didn't want to get into a
I can't
habit
remember
of.
what was your favorite food that you cooked?
I didn't want to get into a habit of cooking and preparing meals. I know some
Nightly.
homes. Nightly, right. I know some homes, some moms train, their daughters. I've seen my mother always prepare foods for her children. And my father, having food there for him. And I just remember looking at it as a little girl, like, my goodness, why can't he cook it for himself? Why can't he make his own food? And so that stuck with me. Like, I don't mind cooking, but that was not my
That was never really your thing.
my thing. And if it was an expectation, then I don't think we would have ever gotten married. That would have been a ball
Because I was
breakup.
raised like that too.
Right.
You was raised like what? Like
self-sufficient.
Self-sufficient.
And so he was able to iron his clothes. He was able to make some meals on his own.
My favorite was making steaks.
Yeah.
You do make a good steak.
That is very important. That
You've made it a few years
table,
ago, but
even 40 years earlier, to be somewhat self-sufficient. And you have still some marriages who 40 years and plus that they still do all of that traditional things, and I don't knock it, but
you did what works for you.
Right. What
works for the both
me,
of you guys.
And I remember critiquing it, looking at it from a child's eyes and questioning. And I just said, I don't think I want to do that when I get older.
When you get older. Did you guys have any doubts early on, like about your marriage or dating, and how did you work through them? Like any doubt, like, I don't know if this is gonna work. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Should we go our separate ways again and then come back?
You mean after marriage? Before marriage.
Before.
Well, we did that.
That's when we broke
one,
up.
One time, yeah.
Oh, just one time you guys broke up.
And I mean, I just brought up. I remember very clearly. And I was telling my mother, I said, if I don't have a baby by the time I'm 30,
I remember you told me that.
One.
Yeah, you told me that.
Because I knew I wanted to be a mother. I always wanted to be a mother. So even though we were dating and, it really wasn't on the forefront to get married. I think that's why 6 years went so quickly. When we got back together, I remember posing the question, you can correct me if I'm wrong, like which way are we going in this relationship? Are we going to date some more? Are we getting married? And I remember, obviously, I guess,
we're at that point.
We're going in that direction.
We're going in that direction to get married. And then soon after he got me a ring, we planned our wedding, and boom, we got married.
A lot of our friends were getting married at that time, too. Before and after we got married.
Yeah. Do you remember buying the ring, Dad?
Yes.
How much was the ring back then? Roughly, how much do you think?
Everything was cheap back then.
It was about maybe $1,000 something.
Nothing was expensive.
Marquee.
How did you feel when he asked you? You got a marquee ring.
Ask me.
What?
We decided.
It was a discussion. It wasn't like how they do.
Like a big grand thing?
No, it wasn't busting balloons, and it wasn't get on your knees, and I wasn't crying, and it wasn't like, let me ask your father for your hand. It was none of that. No. We had a discussion. Hey, which way are we going? Are we going to continue to date? Are we getting married? Or where's this going? And at that time, I had graduated school, and I was working at my first nursing job, and he was working. And it was like, okay, so now what? And I knew I wanted to have children, so I didn't.
She knew she wanted a June wedding,
right? And I wasn't going to waste any more time.
Wedding.
I wasn't going to date 6 more years. And again, that's me.
Some women that will date forever, but
that's
not what you wanted.
All right, this is what I want, and I knew I wanted to be a mother, and at that time it was important that I marry. I mean, some women just say I'm going to get married. Some people just will have the kids and not get married. I know that's more prevalent today. Then they get married, or they don't get married, and they have kids. It's a much more a different mix than having it follow in a specific sequence. I just think the number one thing is picking the correct partner, and you guys are on the same
page,
thought process, and page, mindset.
Who said "I love you" first?
She did.
You did?
Obviously, yes, you did.
What do you mean, obviously? What do you mean by that?
You
obviously,
did, but you did.
I don't remember that.
Of course, I remember that. Write that down. I remember that.
I don't remember that.
You don't remember that? Do you remember him saying it first? Or you don't remember neither one of you?
No, it doesn't ring out hard in my head. Like bells just went swinging and whatever.
So how was the planning of the wedding? Was it quick, or did you just
No, it was easy.
It was easy.
It didn't take that much time.
We knew where.
We knew where.
How many people?
Where you got married at again?
Marina
Del Rey, yeah, in the Bronx.
People. I think we had
100?
88 that show, something like that.
Yeah, we had a table. I know that was empty.
Yeah, I think 88 shows.
Yeah, it was. It went seamless. Like get your dress, getting the flowers. It just kind of moved like clockwork. No drama.
Where the honeymoon was gonna be at?
We went to Bermuda for our honeymoon. So everything kind of went in sequence.
It flowed nicely because from the day of the wedding, right from that point on, we went to a hotel at the airport, and next morning
Flew
we
out.
flew out. But Marianne had an after party at her house.
Oh, for you guys?
After the reception
It was another party?
at Marianne's house.
Oh, Jesus. Y'all were
So a lot of us went
partying.
over there. Not all 88, but a lot of us went over there.
Oh.
Mostly the young ones, our age.
You remember how much it cost or no?
The wedding?
Yeah.
About 10,000, 12,000.
No, it wasn't
The whole
that
thing.
much.
The whole thing, like your dress and everything.
I'm talking about the wedding and the reception and stuff.
You mean the wedding and the reception?
The ceremony.
The whole
Ceremony, the reception.
Ceremony, the reception after, all that stuff is about 10,000. Your dress, I rented a suit.
Yeah, my dress was like $600.
That's it?
Back then, I'll tell you.
$600.
But you know, honestly, you can get a dress at $600 now too, but nobody does.
You
can get something less.
Buying a
I
dress.
don't even have it now.
Doesn't
I
make
got rid of
sense.
You got rid of it? You did get rid of it. I remember that, yeah.
The sensible part is renting one. Don't
Rent one, yeah.
Rent a wedding dress or rent a
Yeah,
tuxedo?
People get sentimental. Oh, I want to get back into it when I'm married 20 years. Some people do, most don't.
Most
I want my
can't fit
daughter
into
to
it.
wear it. No, the styles change. The daughter wants something else. Very few daughters say, oh, they feel very nostalgic and they want to wear their mother's wedding gown. Because
Really?
it's such a personal fit and style, so it's good to just rent it and save yourself some money.
And you got pictures.
And you got pictures, yeah.
Yeah. Would you guys do anything different from...
I wouldn't have dated for 6 years. I wouldn't have.
Would you have done anything different?
Um,
Well, I mean, technically you were dating you was dating somebody else and then you went back to dad, but...
yeah, I guess. Would I do anything different? I don't think so. The 6 years, I didn't mind if it wasn't for 6 years. Could have been 3 years, whatever. That was cool. The time doesn't
That's
matter.
long. I don't think you need to date a long time, personally. I think you kind of know. You know when you know when you know. And I don't know if it takes 6 years. That's what, if you're asking that question.
Did you know dad? Like, did you know, like, okay, I'm going to marry her? Or did
After a
you...
while, yeah.
So it doesn't take that
Of
long.
course not, 'cause you don't think about that the first couple of years.
So it
No,
took...
sometimes I think you know.
Well, we didn't.
Yeah.
We didn't. It might be, but we didn't. Some people meet 6 months they marry, but no.
Yeah, some people get married. Yeah, they kind of like, wow, this is my person, and they get married, and I'm in awe of that. Like, how did you know? A lot of them stay married for a long time. Some
She
don't.
was engaged for 1 year before we got married.
Who?
Really?
No, we
It was
weren't.
about 1 year since
Nope.
the date we said and the date.
No,
we
it was 6 months.
no, it wasn't. 'Cause we
It
had to
was
make the plans.
Harvey.
for
It was
everything.
6 months. It was
Her
not a
calendar
year.
was shorter than mine.
It was not a year.
It was
It was 6 months because we got engaged like around Christmas and we got married that June. It didn't wait a whole year.
I can't.
That's not bad.
No, it was with that
6
yeah,
months
because the
later?
date was available.
I remember it being Christmas though.
All right, so it was the fall. It might have been the fall, but it was. So let's say if it was October, and then we said, okay, let's
I'm
get
leaning towards
married
it.
that June. It wasn't a year. It was less than that. Excuse me.
Whatever.
All right. Well, then how does it feel to make it to 40 years, though? Like, you'll be at 40 years of...
39 years are behind it.
39
That's how it feels.
Like, is it where it seems like it's a... I don't know, where a lot of people aren't getting married now, or it doesn't seem like that many
All my friends are
people...
still married.
Well, your friends are still married, but I'm talking about, like, people in my generation are not
That's
really
different.
getting married.
Yeah, that's different. Yeah,
Well, there's a whole.
a lot of reasons why
There's
that's
a whole lot of.
What are
reasons why
some
that
reasons
is.
y'all think? Because I want to hear from people who have been married for a long time that notice it and see
I
it.
think commitment is not there anymore. Financials hurt a lot. Which prices are out here. Living together, it's easier than putting a ring on it.
What do you mean? What? What was the last thing you said? You think it's
Financials.
finances? I think
Finances.
finances would be the reason why you would get married more because that's what I always felt. I always felt no matter what money there is, it's more money with two of our incomes versus
Than one.
That is true, but a lot of times, a lot of people your age, my money's my money, your money's your money. You can come together and do things. But it's not going to work.
That's
the
true.
big,
And
that's
a
the
lot of people
biggest
don't want to
problem.
do that. They don't want to
It's right.
be
Whatever I make is mine. Whatever you
together.
make is yours.
But then why are so many people, do you think, why do you think so many people from my generation are so scared to get married? Because a lot of people say, but not just commitment, but they also say like a piece of paper doesn't
And they'll
mean
live together.
anything.
So they'll live together.
Right.
It does mean things because, I mean, even though there's common laws depending on which state you live in, the piece of paper gives you a lot of gives you rights for many different things. Unless you're going to go to a lawyer and draw up a contract if you're living with someone and keep certain things separate. If you have children, you start having property, you start having different things. Things start to get, I will say, lack of a better word, a little messy. And there's nothing worse than, and we've seen it in friends and during our journey, if someone dies, someone gets sick, and then the family may like the other person, may not like the other person, drag the other person into court, fighting over properties, assets, and different things, and you're still not, quote unquote, the wife with that piece of paper. So it's a very slippery slope when you know, the non-committal, you keep your stuff and I keep my stuff.
Marriage license is nothing other than a promissory note. I promise to take care of you if something happens, and you promise to take care of me. My funds in my pocket. If something happens to you, I get the money to take care of you. You get the money to take care of me. It's a promissory note.
And I think the other piece that's missing in your generation is the spiritual aspect. You know, the spiritual aspect of you saying the vows in front of God, and that's a whole nother conversation. You know, what is your spiritual connection? What is the partner's spiritual connection in terms of you making a promise and or a commitment from a spiritual piece? So forget the money. You know, where is your sense of direction? And that's where I think a lot of young folks are a little lost. And then having, different relationships as you grow and develop, different baby mothers, different baby fathers, and what is the example that is being shown to the children? If they're born into that, I guess they adapt because that's what they know. So it's not strange. But suppose there's a lot of conflict and turmoil. What is that then saying to
The kid.
Yeah, the children and or your family structure. Now, I do feel that there's a village with a family. It's not just the wife. It's not just the husband. It is the aunties, the uncles, the cousins. It could be friends that are very close to, which everyone kind of comes together as a village to support the family, so to speak. And I see that in some incidences too, and that's really nice. Because that's what you need. You need a foundation. And I think years, in maybe not my time, maybe your grandmother's time and your great grandmother's time, there was Big Mama, there was Auntie, there was a different family structure that was an anchor that kind of helped you through marriage too. That I think is missing today.
Did you guys have like examples of marriage growing up?
Not really. Not in my behalf.
Because I know some people say like, oh, that's the reason why they won't get married because they never had that example in their household. So they're like, well, why would I do it? Or why should I do it if I clearly saw that marriage never worked?
No. But then you could look at it from another point. It never worked. It might have made me sad. It might have made me this way or that way. So when I do get married or when I find that person, I am going to develop and carve out a kind of home environment that I always wanted. And I see that too. So it doesn't have to be that you run totally the other way. It could be like, you know what, I was back and forth between my mom, my stepmom, my dad, my stepdad, this one, that one. I think I want to have more of an anchor where
It's
there's
like
some
stability.
continuity. Right. And you might strive for that.
My stepfather was very good to us and to my mother. Didn't know my father. Left us when I was 5. But my stepfather, he was pretty good with us. He got us into our first house.
Oh,
At
nice.
12 years old. I was 12 years old.
Oh, you were
That
12.
was, I
You
was
were 12?
12 years old.
Oh.
And they had a good relationship until he died in that house.
What is the one thing that most people misunderstand about marriage? Because I think some people think like when you get married, it's supposed to be rainbows and sunshine all the time,
No.
and they like feel like even with this, they're supposed to be like untouchable, no problems will happen,
No
or
way, hell no.
all
That's
of that
absurd.
stuff.
You have to have that resiliency to kind of go back to the drawing board and ask the question why. I'm sure both of us have thought about, listen, I'm out of here. Well, I'm not speaking for Harvey. I'm going to speak for myself.
That was my next
You had
question.
that feeling? Now you tell me.
There were times when I'm like, what the hell is this? And I was like, dang, I don't know. I don't have any juice to see this through or see that through. And I think what happens is sometimes you get these messages. You get these messages. I don't know if it's ancestors. I don't know who it is that, you could be in a store or it could get a phone call from an elder or something. And it's always sometimes on time where somebody's talking to you or saying something and you just kind of like, wow, I didn't think of it this way. So you're very sensitive to messages that you get that are not necessarily so obvious to usher you through those bumpy roads.
I didn't feel that way. I never thought that because I thought we were going in the right directions. From one step to another. The biggest problem was after we got married, we moved into my house, which was, some people didn't like that on her side. But I said it for a reason so we could save some money to buy a house of our own. I think she wanted us to get an apartment in Co-op City or somewhere like that. But I said, why? We could live in ours and living there for 1 year. We didn't put a time on it, but it was 1 year. 1 year, we moved to Jersey.
2 years.
I got the dates to prove it. So I was
2
good.
years
I got the dates to prove it.
It was 1 year.
2
We
years.
spent 3 years
in Jersey.
And every step was a positive move.
So you
We didn't
basically,
argue about it, except for getting her to decide to move into my house. Which I don't
you didn't want to
think
move into his house, Mom?
And she was trying to.
No, I didn't.
Try to talk her out of it.
No, I didn't because it wasn't in the greatest neighborhood, and I felt I was taking a step back.
Where was this
But
at though? Down in
the
the
South Bronx.
South Bronx? Oh.
Tremont Avenue.
Tremont Avenue.
At the time, it wasn't really considered the South Bronx, but
Yeah.
it was the South Bronx later on. It's changed. Neighborhoods changed, but it never got bad. We got shootings and stabbings. It was never like that.
But
the cars wasn't stolen.
But for the reasons why we went, it did make sense because we lived off of one salary. So there goes the sacrifice we did.
Oh, you did.
We lived off of one salary. We banked
Because we
the
did.
others.
Yeah.
So the other salary, so we could save money to move and get our own house, which was the reason. So for that, I was able to just, be okay for it for about 2 years. He said it's a year. I think
Maybe
it was
two because
2
we
years.
did. I remember spending 2 Christmases there.
Yeah, it was 2
Maybe
years.
2 years.
And then we moved on to a house
Year
in
and a half, 'cause
Jersey.
we moved in June.
Okay, year and a half, 2 years,
I'm thinking.
tomatoes, tomatoes. So it was like, so the purpose, being on the same wavelength for the common goal, that was the goal. And I knew we weren't going to stay there and live there forever.
So do you think like women today should do that as far as allowing their husbands to have a plan and just go with it?
Yes.
No. I think we should come together on something.
Right, come
Oh,
together.
Oh, well, come together, yeah.
But she's talking about being submissive.
I'm being more submissive.
Submissive to the husband and letting him lead.
No,
No,
I don't think so.
I think.
But you were in a sense,
I
though,
think
Dad.
yeah.
No.
In a sense, you were because you had a plan to come stay with me, and then we
I
go.
wouldn't use the word submissive.
Okay.
What would you say?
Because we both agreed not.
But suppose I said no.
Then we would have had Plan B, whatever that might have been. I was up for Plan B, but going into Co-op City would take a while anyway. So we would have to rent someplace at a higher rent that we were paying in my house because we own the house. So that didn't make sense. So I don't know what Plan B would have been. It would have been more money for one, and we wouldn't have saved like we wanted to.
But okay, I hear what you're saying about a coming together and a meeting of the minds. All right, and so this situation that worked. You're talking about now, Michelle, today's woman, which is much more
Independent.
My
I don't need a
thing,
man.
My CEO
Yeah.
don't need a man. I think the worst thing that's happening, and the verbal discord and dialogue that's coming out is like, I don't need a man, I can do it by myself. I think that's the worst thing, and I think that's what's causing probably a lot of issues as to why there's turmoil on today's woman and today's man coming together. I think that's one of the issues that has to be kind of quieted down a bit, because there's a lot of things women can do quietly and not be so loud and boisterous. Like, you see that movie, My Big Fat Greek Wedding?
Yeah.
When the mother said that she turns the head.
Yeah, she said, your father may be the neck, but I'm the head.
Right.
And without the head, the neck can't turn.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you just have to know how to craft and move and be, work at it unison together as a couple, but quietly, because mostly women do that navigating.
I think women, couples nowadays, women shouldn't jump that fast into relationships. They should talk it out a lot more so, and see if you're going into the same direction. And same timeline, rather than jump real quick, because a lot of that times it doesn't work that way. And then if you talk about being submissive, that's the work. Never tell a man you're going to be submissive, because that's what they're going to expect for you forever.
And
So,
they'll take
you're pulling
that.
your own weight, and they're pulling their own weight. You have to see if the mindset is to come together and work in the right directions between the two of you.
And when a woman is feeling the relationship emotionally, is in love and wants to see it grow and flourish, I think some of that submissiveness comes naturally, because I just really believe that's how women are made. Everyone can't be loud and rah, I'm the head, and I just don't see that happening.
I think a lot of women just do all of that because it's out of fear and being scared that like they're gonna get played again or they're gonna get used. So they like put on that cape or that that coat or that armor. Like, no, I'm good, I'm fine. But I do want a guy, I do want a man, but it's just like,
It's never going to be 50-50. People say, relationships are 50. It's always going to be on a moving scale. You're up, I'm down. I'm up, you're down.
Always.
It's always going to be on a moving scale. It's never going to be 50-50.
That's good.
That's okay, as long as you guys are
You're understanding it.
those levels.
Yeah, because that's the whole thing about there'd be a 70-30 at certain seasons of your marriage, and in some seasons of your marriage it'll be 80-20. Some 60-40.
I ain't going that far.
Okay.
60-40.
60-40, 70-30.
45.
All right.
70-30.
Well,
Maybe.
maybe 70-30. Suppose
you could be 90 and 0. I mean, 90 and 0. 90 and 10.
Suppose one partner is ill and the other one has to put in most of the... Wait a minute. You're talking about in a relationship, in a marriage, and I'm talking about seasons in a marriage. So if it's 70-30 in a particular seasons of a marriage, maybe one partner is ill. So the other one has to take on a little bit more until the other partner gets well, and then it shifts back up. That's all. That's the point I'm making. That's it.
I mean, that could be true too. Yeah. But I mean, even when you don't have it, like if someone loses their job, I seen a video where this girl said that she married her husband. He had a nice job. He took care of everything. And the moment the man lost his job, she got a divorce. She's like, I want a divorce. Because I didn't sign up to be nobody's housemaid taking care of anyone. You're supposed to take care of me as the man in the
So now where is she now? She's single, right?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know.
Taking care of
herself.
And she don't want to be. Whereas if she was with him, and look at Ryan
and just
Coogler.
Waited, yeah.
His woman bought him a $300 computer thing,
software to get him started,
and be in his corner. Suppose she took that attitude.
Yeah, but then he ended up getting a job.
No, I know, but I'm sure during that crazy time before he did all of them great movies.
Yeah.
She stuck by.
No, I'm not
and
talking about Ryan. I'm talking about that video. But I know what
Okay,
you're
but I
saying.
mean, it's got some similarities there. Just
Yeah.
some similarities. But anyway, that was just a little bit of an example.
That's
But,
true.
You know, so what are you saying? You know, when you're talking about a marriage and a relationship, being there for each other, being that balance. I don't know.
I don't know. I think everybody feels like everyone should be 100 all the time.
Not gonna work.
What role does forgiveness play in a lasting relationship? How many times you had to forgive yourself or forgive each other for, like, I don't know. It could be anything.
First of all, you have to admit that you're wrong to forgive somebody else too.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't if you can't say yourself wrong, how are you gonna forgive somebody else?
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to do. It's gonna come up, and definitely over the years, for both parts. You gotta forgive yourself for things you've done, but you have to speak on it. On both sides, you have to speak on it.
So you gotta have communication.
Always. That's
No,
one of
you.
the slight glues that holds things together.
Yeah, but people don't even do that now. They expect you to understand and know them.
And you got the social
Like it's
life,
charades.
and you punk out on social media. You write all this bullshit on
That's one of the worst
on
things
the
to do.
phone,
Yeah.
and that is the worst. And nobody sits eye to eye in your presence where you could feel someone's energy, where you could look them in the eye and have a
Do everything through a
conversation.
text
That's another
message.
thing.
Yeah.
Text message, that is the worst. So how can you have any kind of foundation if you don't sense a human connection? I don't understand it. I know that's another generation, another time. I just don't get it. But when you ask your previous question, these are some of the pitfalls that you guys have that we didn't have. And it'll be interesting if somebody interviews you, if you're in a relationship for 20, 30, 40 years, how you weathered today's technology and still survive.
Yeah, because I think social media has made it worse as far as, like, so many options. People think they have so many options, so that's why they don't stay so committed, like you said, Dad, to anyone, because they feel like they could just take anybody and get anyone. So if you don't do something right, well, I could kick you to the curb and then, boom, someone new. But anyway, have you ever been, or has there ever been moments where you had to fall in love with each other over again? And how did you do that?
Yeah, holidays.
What? The holidays.
Christmas, Valentine's Day, you know.
But Mom was never big on Valentine's Day, though. Like, she was like,
Really? Don't buy her a card, or don't get her flowers, or don't get something she had decided her come out. Let's be honest. Let's be real. She ain't big
No,
on
but you did
birthdays
it.
either, but if you forget it,
no, she's big on her birthday.
That's not true.
Her birthday is
Come on
big,
now.
but I
Over
feel
40
like
40 plus years, you don't know the recipe.
I do. That's what I'm saying.
No.
Stick
First
to-
of all,
stick to the recipe.
First of all,
Don't
my
forget.
whole thing with Valentine's Day is, which I'm very happy to say, you know, with my father who had 4 daughters, Valentine's Day was always recognized in our house. My father got the big Valentine chocolates for my mother, and he always bought us all small little Valentine boxes and a card. The takeaway there was that it was, and this is long before boyfriends, just the symbolic gesture of Valentine's Day. And that shaped my view on Valentine's Day to some degree. Do I want to be recognized on Valentine's? Of course. But I'm just saying today it's on a whole nother DVD. Diamonds, $50, $80 bouquets of flowers, you know, all of these things. Some Valentine's Days, if you like that and want to do it, beautiful. But I just think it's just a marketing gimmick. And I would love flowers, like I've told you both, just to give me flowers just because. Doesn't have to be on Valentine's Day, which is a
on
marketing
Mother's Day.
holiday.
Yeah.
That's my whole thing with Valentine's.
Because
Of
everything
course I
goes
wanna
up in
get a
price.
card and chocolate, and that's what we do with each other, Harvey. You know we do.
I'm not saying
We
nothing
give
about
each
that.
other
That wasn't
chocolates.
my-
We
my
give
answer.
each other cards.
I said, don't forget those things. That's
Yeah,
what I said.
yeah, that's true. Don't forget them. You know,
Yeah.
because it's not. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be expensive. It
Even
really
when she
doesn't.
says, I don't want nothing, believe me, that's not the truth. Don't forget the
Did you hear that, guys? Gentlemen? Even no, I'm saying when women say like, "Oh, I don't want anything. I'm okay."
That's not. Yeah, that's not.
Wait.
That's not the truth they're saying.
It doesn't have to be extravagant. It can just be just because too.
Just because is always good, but I like just because. But anyway, what are some mistakes you think couples should try to avoid in marriage, and I guess before they get married? Do you think? Well, actually, do you think couples should do marriage counseling before?
Yes.
Well, if you think before, maybe there'd be less marriages.
No, I think
You think?
they should,
I
no.
think so.
No, I don't think
I
so.
think so.
Oh no, you know what? I can understand what he's saying though, because then they'll see a lot about what they're hiding.
You're gonna
Or
see
what
a lot of things
they're-
that wasn't brought out until
Yeah.
somebody else asked that question. You're gonna say, what?
I
Really?
think it is imperative to do marriage counseling. I think it can't do anything but to bring to light the union of two imperfect
You talking about
people
before or after?
before marriage. Two imperfect people coming together to have a union and make a life together, which is what it is. Because that's what you say, it's a contract, it's a lot of different things. But two people are imperfect, and then you're putting your stuff on the other person. Oh, he's going to make me happy. She's going to make me happy. This is what I want, this and that. But you're coming to the table with a deficit, and so is the other person. So I do think counseling to talk out certain things.
What if you find out
Can't
things that you two didn't have in discussion yourselves, and you go to this third party, and they bring that part of you out
That's
that the other
good.
person didn't know?
That's a good thing.
It could be a good thing. It could be a bad thing because the other person could say, "Well, we didn't talk about it. I didn't know that about you."
But you would rather it come out after
And
marriage?
that's what I'm saying. So that being said, it could be less marriages, or longer
So,
longer dating.
but it's
Which
cheaper.
means
It's
that-
cheaper to go to marriage counseling before getting married than going
think so.
to find shit out after
Yeah,
marriage.
I'm saying, that may lead
Yes.
to less
And then it's like,
marriages.
oh, oof,
It might lead to less marriage. Not saying that's the wrong thing because maybe they brought out stuff that you shouldn't.
that they shouldn't get married, right? Which isn't bad either. Maybe if you're not supposed to. Isn't marriage? I always say marriage isn't for everybody. Although everybody wants, well, majority of people want to get married.
If you're gonna say that, then there you go again, shacking up together.
Shacking.
That's
But some people like-
live together without the ring.
Yeah, but some people don't mind it. Some people feel like marriage is because you said it's a contract, so they don't want to be binded down into a
So
contract.
how long do you live like that
I don't know. Some people live like that forever
until something happens?
until something happens,
Yeah,
and then you
man,
can't get
everybody go
nothing.
rolling up
Yeah,
into
yeah,
court and dividing up your assets.
You don't get
But
shit.
We know people that happens.
Yeah,
to.
man, it is
I'm not gonna
messy.
name names. but
Yeah, we
know
ain't gonna
people
name names.
that has happened to.
We might get sued.
Let's not name no names.
No names.
So looking for perfection seems to be the narrative or the objective today when it comes to dating. How do men and women avoid this thought of finding perfection?
Turn off that MF in social media, that piece of crap
Nothing.
social media with the AI garbage, airbrushing what women should be, how she's supposed to be sexy and a bombshell 9 months after having a baby.
Yeah,
and the man
please.
is supposed to be this and he's supposed to be that, keep his hair on his head and everything is all nice and juicy looking. Now, it's not the truth.
Nothing in your marriage vow says anything about perfection.
Perfection.
That's right.
Facts.
So no one is perfect.
And social media and AI and these reality shows
It's rough
and
enough
all
what
this
that
garbage that you guys are exposed to is the slow demise of the
Relationships coming
institution
together.
of marriage.
That's a fact. That is true.
As the saying goes, believe nothing you hear and half of what you see.
That is true too. Well, that's the end of that question because you guys answered that pretty good. Being an individual in your marriage, having your own favorite thing to do or your own like, I guess like your own your own piece or like your own being your own person. Yeah.
Yeah, but
How important is
very,
that?
very, very
Let her
important.
answer. She did. No, she ain't finished the question yet.
That was the question.
That was
I said it. Yeah. How
I knew it.
I didn't get it ended.
How have you both changed individually since getting married? That's the question, Mom.
Well, Right, you answer that first.
No, you do.
There's
Because
two
I
parts
have my
of that.
thing.
There's two parts of that. Mm-hmm. Well, it could be three if you want to add the time you're dating and the time you're married and the time you guys retire if you last that long. Because there's nothing. The biggest wake up. Maybe that's a question you might ask later on. So I'm not going to go there.
No, go ahead. You can say it.
Retirement. No, because
Oh, God.
because you have to have your time away in all three phases.
Hallelujah.
You can't,
Hallelujah.
you can't. You have to have time, peace for yourself. Sometimes I ain't gonna lie. I did overtime because I wasn't ready to go home yet.
Oh, wow. Wait, say that again. Say that again.
Oh, is this true confessions? Oh,
Wait,
sucky and
there's more
true
to it.
confessions.
There's more to it than that.
Oh.
Picking you guys up from the babysitter when you were young.
Uh-huh.
I had problems with the babysitter. She was a great person. You know what I'm talking about. Great person. But she was about a minute. So, okay, even if I got off at 2 o'clock and I was supposed to pick you guys up at 6, I waited till 6 to pick you up. because that's what you knew that. You knew that.
4 hours? No.
I'm just
You
saying,
told me
dude,
15 minutes and stuff.
No.
4
First of all, I didn't
hours?
get to 3 o'clock anyway, so that wasn't the time. I just used that as an example. So I got from work at whatever time, 4:30. From 4:30, I let you. Cause we paid from 6 to 6, so I let her sit there from 6 to 6. I used to pick them up earlier, but when she started getting my nerves about dropping them off 5 minutes too soon, I said, okay.
She was getting up.
Oh, she was like a time freak,
Well,
like
time
very.
for it. So I said, okay, so
precise.
I'll pick them up at 6 o'clock.
So Dad got off at 2. Went to go watch some football.
That's exactly what you know what I'm talking about.
All right, so finish the other phases.
That's it. You need the time. You definitely need time. In all three phases, you need time for yourself.
Yes.
Yes.
That is imperative. And sometimes it goes smoothly and sometimes not. I remember when we first got married and we were deciding what we were going to do with our money and accounts and stuff. Now, you remember this, right? And he said, oh, what do you think? We're Rockefeller, we're rich, got all these accounts. I had my own savings account. He had his own. He had his own savings account, and I wanted to keep that. But you wasn't agreement with that. You thought get a savings account, a joint savings, a joint checking.
No. 2 savings and a joint checking. That's how we always had.
We had a joint savings. We had a joint.
That was a checking account. That was the
we had a joint checking and a joint savings. You had a savings and I had a savings. And at first, initially, when we started talking about it, it was looked upon as 4 accounts versus having a joint checking, a joint savings account. And it was important to me for us to have, when you talk about individuality, keep that savings that I had and he kept his savings that he had. And we did, and it worked out well. Money coming out, including the 401s. He had money coming out of his check to go into his savings. So if he wanted to buy something personal, same with me. But we came together jointly for household things, household bills, household goals to attain to regarding our joint savings. And in terms,
joint savings were connected to the checking. That's why. So I count that as one.
Oh, all right. Well, I count it as 2 different accounts.
Because it's connected to the.
So you should definitely have your own accounts when you're married.
Your own accounts. But the whole point of a marriage is you're coming together as one. So it should shift. You're coming together like minds to see, to build something together, whether it's to buy a property, land, whatever it is you're going to do. So you have to pool your money together jointly. And then you do have a little side money, sure. I think it's important. You want to buy a pair of shoes, or you want to do something for yourself. I think that's important to keep that individuality as well.
And hanging out with your own.
It shifts.
And hanging out with your own group of friends
but it shifts. It should not override or surpass
your marriage.
You doing things with your mate because you're a couple, so you find other couples. But it's okay also to go with your girls. I'm not saying kick your girls or your guys or whatever, your friends to the curb, but the balance of how you hang out with them changes. It's going to change again when you have children. You're going to hang out with other families who have young children. It changes then when your kids get into middle school, high school, college. It's a constant evolution and change. You done?
No.
You said I'm done.
How is marriage during retirement?
You answer that first, Hawk.
No, you go first.
Another chapter, I will say for me, another relationship adjustment. You know, people don't talk about that enough. I say it. A lot of people don't talk about that. Like, you know, when you're in a relation, you know, married and you're with the kids and working and overtime and this and that, you know, it's you're busy and you're just on a different kind of treadmill. When you retire and you're home and it's like, oh, what are we doing today? What we got planned today? What are you making for dinner? What are you making for breakfast? Where are we going? You know, it's some days. No, that's your questions. And it's like some days it flows and then some days it's like, I don't know, figure something out, you tell me, type of thing. So it's an adjustment. I'm after 4 years adjusting better. I had more of a challenge of adjusting to the quiet life than my spouse over here.
Quiet life? You mean living up here?
No, just retirement, just coming down off on another level. I find that I'm still trying to find my niche and my purpose where I'm, you know, still contributing. I still have stuff to contribute.
It's a big difference when you wake up along somebody and see them all day long. And you go to sleep and you wake up the next morning and they're all day long. Where before you were going to work, doing this, doing that, coming home, hey, how you doing? How's your day? Okay.
Bye.
I was like, I know how your day was because I'm with you all day long.
And sometimes I just got to go out.
You know what we say to myself? Well, how did you sleep?
That's what you're asking me. How did you sleep?
Yes. We know how your day is because I'm with you all day.
Oh, God.
It's an experience, and I thought it was just us, but I asked other people, and they said the same thing. It's a big adjustment.
It is a big adjustment. Oh, my God.
All day long, every day, 7 days a week. What's for dinner? I don't know. You asked me that yesterday.
I know, it is something else. And you don't sit still. I get that a lot. You don't sit still. And I'm not sitting still because that time is coming where I'm gonna have to sit still, and I am bucking it every chance I get. So I am mostly in the streets, and
She has HJD.
No, don't say that. Don't say that. Don't say that. I don't have ADHD. I don't. I don't have ADHD. I do not. Stop saying that.
You said you don't have. So
stop saying it. I don't have ADHD. I'm just more, I like to be out more, go to plays more, be connected more, and I don't see nothing wrong with that. I accept that. But I could slow down the pace a little bit, I will say. But we're just like on two different spectrums. Like, we could both be in the house, and it's quiet. He likes it quiet, reading the book. I come down, I turn on the radio. You just can't take it when it's quiet in here. No, I like stimuli. Just background music, not blasting. But he wants to hear his thoughts. I say, go downstairs, go sit. Well,
whenever she comes, I can go because I need my quiet.
You see what I mean? This retirement, we're still.
Quiet space is not respected. We respected. When she comes down, the whole thing changes. What we have to be on.
So I get in the car and I go.
And without a destination, where you going? I don't know. Just driving around.
I have some place to go. I'll go shopping.
Come back with stuff.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't intended.
So the question on how do we adjust? I think we gave you a good example. We're still adjusting.
Then I like to watch my sports.
Oh Lord.
I can't stand it.
No, I like the playoffs. Come on.
No, I said I, not you.
Right.
This is year round.
Yeah.
Sports, or you can't stand it. God. You don't like when I'm sitting there relaxing, maybe once in 2 weeks.
Just like dust growing over him, just sitting there and watching TV.
I'm watching my sports. She's more so on her phone.
Okay. What advice would you give young couples today who want to get married or looking to get married? what would you tell them? If you can give them 2 things of advice, what would you tell them?
Don't rush, and a lot of communication, and to see if the paths meet for the future.
So if
That's
everything,
3.
Whatever.
so if everything,
Sometimes you need more than 2.
so if everything aligns right, then you guys get married.
Mm-hmm.
Mom, what would you say? 3 things since Dad made 3. Go ahead.
3 things. I would say definitely communication, because that's what's going to sustain you from start to whenever, as long as you're married. I think communication is very, very important. And if you need help with that and need an intermediary, don't be ashamed to get counseling. And also too, I think, don't be afraid to, which comes under communication, to really be honest with what it is you want. What is it that you want? Children? Do you want, live in a house, an apartment, rent, whatever it is that you feel you want. Don't be ashamed or afraid to articulate what you want. And the third thing is to keep your friends and your family out of your business. Because everyone has their own recipe for how they make their particular union work, and what works for you may not work for me, and you don't need a lot of people's opinions regarding things that's going on in your life.
Very true, very true. Okay, so the last question, well, last 2 questions. Dad, what advice would you give men today about relationships and how they can stay in a 40-year marriage? Because a lot of men are not.
Patience. Patience.
As he brings the mic closer to him.
Patience.
Patience.
And when they try you, that's not always a bad thing. They're testing you. So, yeah, there's a lot of patience and discussions. Continuous over the years. You're going to grow. Hopefully you're going to grow apart. You're supposed to grow together. But you have to have patience.
And Mom, what would you give women when it comes to having a long lasting relationship?
I would say patience too. And know that where you are in terms of how you're starting out, that's going to evolve and change. One of Harvey's mother's good friends, Aunt Muriel, told us at our reception, or told me, I don't know if Harvey heard it, she said something about our love is going to change. And I did not understand what she meant by that until after some years in a marriage. What does that mean? And it just changed. It sheds, it grows new life. Some parts die. And I then understood it as I got older. I'll be fading now.
All right. Well, thanks guys for being on. Appreciate your advice. This was funny.
To hear the feedback.
Oh my God, this is gonna be funny. Because they're gonna be like, your parents are a trip. Make sure you guys like, comment, leave a comment if you need some more advice from my parentals. Congratulations on 40 years, guys.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. It's really more than 40.
All right, but 40 is married, though.
40 plus 6, 46. 460 years. No, it's 4. Because 6 I was counting as dating and 40 is married.
Well, technically, so 46 together, 40 married.
Well, yeah, then we broke up. So what,
And
are you going to add that?
The best,
Maybe 43.
43.
the best
No, 46.
thing
Okay, we'll say
of
46.
this union was my 2 lovely kids.
Yeah.
Me and my brother.
And I know people say, oh, you should stay together for the kids. I still think people do that.
Mm-hmm.
And you interview 5 couples and they will say 5 different reasons as to why they do. even though the marriage is changing. So this is what I was saying earlier about, following your own heart, your own recipe of what works for you. As long as there's no violence and you're sane with how you're moving forward. Would you agree?
Definitely.
Definitely. All right, guys. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, and leave a comment.
And tell your friends.
And tell your friends to tell your friends to tell your friends. All right. Have a good one. Later.